I'm Bill Drayton with Ashoka, everyone a change maker. I've always been a social entrepreneur from elementary school onward. And if you look at the great social entrepreneurs, it's not astrophysics. Anyone can figure out how to solve it. Then you just have to give yourself permission. And so Ashoka is the world's association of leading, unambiguously and only for the good of all, entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs means major systems change or mindset change, not direct service. We work together to not only to help one another with the individual ideas, but to see the patterns and help society make really big leaps together. When we got started, there wasn't even a word. We had to make up the word social entrepreneur. And we made up the word changemaker at the same time. It was a very conscious effort to get the construct of social entrepreneurship to be something that everyone knows. Everyone now knows if you care and you organize, that's a really good life and you'll be respected and it's feasible. That's an opportunity that everyone has, but you have to have the construct first. So in many ways, that's one of our most important results. If we can encourage people, everyone, to give themselves permission, you can understand a need. That's not hard. There are plenty of needs, and figure out a solution. And so, we help the leading social entrepreneurs help one another. But our ultimate goal is to make sure that everyone, meaning literally everyone, can be a giver, a change maker, which is what you have to be in a world defined by change. At the personal level, I have two parents who did completely crazy things when they were 19. And that was a gift. I grew up in Manhattan, which is 400 years of immigrants coming and succeeding. And it has a very special power. I was fascinated by history, geography, how the world works, completely uncomprehending of why I was being tortured by Latin and French and math. So I started things. Afraid, no, but we didn't know exactly how it was going to work. Sense that the timing was right a good deal later, in the late 70s. Then we had three things we were worried about. How do we systematically find great entrepreneurs before they have launched? This is much harder than the Nobel problem. Second, this was the time when Mrs. Gandhi in India, which is where we started, was talking about the foreign hand, and she blamed everything on the foreign hand. So we were worried that, we were committed to being a global organization. Great admirers of Jean Monnet and what he did for Europe. We felt need to do that globally. But here we are, and people where they're getting started and they have a new idea that upsets things. If they're associated with a global organization, well, maybe that could be used against them. So we had a couple of design issues. And just to take that last one, we talked to 364 people in Venezuela, India, and Indonesia, three very different cultures and size. And only 2 or 3 people out of that whole group said that we were going to have that political problem, which was very encouraging. And ultimately, we were able to solve it by being a fellowship, a community, because great social entrepreneurs are very savvy. They understand how things work better than anybody because they're thinking about it every day. history has reached the point that you have to be a change maker. Now this is the really big, more than system change, framework change. I think there are 3 levels of impact. Direct service. You really need the teacher in the classroom. We don't do that, except for prototyping. The entrepreneur comes in at the next 2 levels. Systems change, a whole different way of teaching or organizing or whatever. And mindset change. Introducing the construct of social entrepreneurship is a mindset change. And you measure it in terms of what's in people's minds. So we think now, for example, that the reason the world is divided and is getting more divided every year is that a very large part of humanity is successfully in the new game. Everything changing, everything interconnected, those 2 facts reinforcing one another, and it's a system that's taking off. The people in that part of the world, those people are doing really well. There are no job shortages for people with those skills. There is a bidding war. The problem is that there is the other very large part of humanity who does not have these new skills, almost opposite of the skills you had to have for the world of repetition and assembly line and law firms. And they are not in the game. They can't be in the game because they don't have the skills. And the people who are in the game are helping one another get better and better because it's a team of teams sport. So the new inequality, sitting on top of all the old ones, this one is vicious because it gets worse by a bigger amount every year. It's an exponential. And when you crush, which is what we are doing, a large part of humanity, you have no future, go away, we don't need you, it's your fault, and by the way, your kids don't have a future. Well, they commit slow suicide, families fall apart, and they're very angry, and they should be. And that comes out in the us versus them politics. If we don't stop that, right now, we are on a very bad path. But if we can really get every single human being to be able to be ever, which means you have to be a change maker, the new inequality goes away. And in a world of everything changing, where you're constantly in new teams, what do you do in a team? You've got to help everyone else in the team be a really good player. This is a very healthy, good system. We can't leave half of humanity behind. And that's the big frame change that we're working on now. And we've taken 5 years, but we've figured out how to actually do that. It's very, very exciting. The first one is so fundamental. You've just got to give yourself permission. Every single human being has, when you look at the people who are successful, you could have thought of those ideas. The difference is that they gave themselves permission to do so. So the second thing is very closely related. Lots of people are going to tell you, you can't. No, don't do that. That's silly. What they're really saying is they didn't do that. And you're making them feel uncomfortable about their life story. So be very polite, but don't listen. So those are the 2 first rules. And then just, what problems do you care about? And it doesn't have to be a problem. What opportunities do you dream about? And then just ask, how would I go about changing this? And you can figure it out. There are 2 moments in the human life cycle that are really critical for change-making abilities, and especially for social entrepreneurship, which is the systems and mindset change levels. The first is you got to, as a really young person in your teens, you got to do it. This is like riding a bicycle. You can read all the books in the world, you just got to get up and do it. Have your dream, build a team, change your world. That early experience is critical. And then in the middle age, whatever that is, but typically you get your power as a team. That's really important. But then you have to learn how the world works. And, there's university and apprenticeship somewhere. And typically it's both for business entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship. Mid-late 30s, early 40s is a prime time because people have had enough time to understand how the world works, what they care about, they've been thinking about, and they see, oh, that's how we could change the whole system. And they make the judgment that the timing is ripe and that they have enough skills. That's when they get elected as an Ashoka Fellow. Well, we actually have a little booklet which is available at ashoka.org, Selecting Leading Social Entrepreneurs, that spells this out. But in quick summary, first of all, is there a new idea that the entrepreneur and we think will change the pattern in the field or the mindset, at least on a continental level? Now, that may take 10 or 15 years. That's fine, but that's a knockout. Then there are 4 others. First is this person creative, both in goal setting and problem solving? Second, is this person entrepreneurial? An entrepreneur, as I mentioned earlier, cannot come to rest until their new idea is the new pattern in society. That means that they care as much about the how-tos as the vision. They tend to be double dominant, right and left brain as a result. Long-term commitment to the idea, really good listening. How are they on the how-to? So that's the second one. The third one is the social impact of the new idea. So we imagine the entrepreneur gets a demonstration up and running and then disappears. Does this idea have the legs to spread? Well, other people say, this is a really good idea. This is practical. And if it does, how good an impact for the good of all will it have? The final criterion is really, really important. It's ethical fiber. And we put it last because the cerebral cortex can contribute, but this really, you've got to go to your deeper self and people are really good at this. Ashoka is a community of trust. We trust one another. People from Bolivia go to Thailand and they work together. If you have one person in a room of 20 people who's not trustworthy, there's no real conversation. So ethical fiber is critical. So that's it. A big new idea and those 4 qualities. The practice is terribly messed up. A lot of damage is being done. So first of all, you have to understand there are 3 different levels and types of impact. Direct service, the teacher classroom, systems change, and mindset change. Entrepreneurs come in at those 2 stages. Never try to measure an entrepreneur with direct service measures, and foundations do it all the time. no, the point for the entrepreneur is not to double the number of people being directly served. It's to change the pattern. As you can tell, this makes me really angry because this is a case of power hurting, bringing a false set of measures. And mindset change is different yet again. So we have three very simple questions when we're looking at fellows for the pattern change. What proportion have changed national policy? And at the end of 5 years, over half have. What proportion have had their idea copied by independent institutions? Over 90%. Now, I'll just give you some examples from the mindset change area. We understand that success in growing up now, the most important measure for young people in their teens is what proportion of young people know, mindset change verb, that they're a change maker. Now, you can't know if you haven't done it. You can measure whether or not a kid has that knowledge as easily as you can measure literacy. And you can compare Mr. Jones's class at beginning and end of the class. You compare teaching methods, schools, cities, ethnic groups, and you can take that broad measure and look at the sub-elements of it, the 4 abilities. How advanced is this young person in conscious cognitive empathy, etc. First of all, you have to know what you're measuring and match the measure to, is it direct service, pattern change, or mindset change? Now, there's some other dimensions. Business knows that it's important to listen to clients. This very regrettable, mechanistic, direct service measure doesn't listen to clients. Keystone and other groups have done a very good job of changing that dimension so that many people are learning that at all 3 levels, listen to the clients. That's an important innovation going on in assessment in the social sector now.